All right, so today we're taking a deep dive into Discworld, but not just any part of it. We're going to Fourecks.
Fourecks. Yeah.
It's like it's basically like Australia turned up to 11.
To 11.
Yeah, you've got scorching deserts and bizarre creatures, and there's a drought. Like a drought so bad that even the water holes are like primordial soup.
Yeah, the thing about Fourecks that's so fascinating is how Pratchett uses all these like Aussie stereotypes, you know?
Yeah.
Like the dry humor and the rugged individualism. And I think Australians have like a love-hate relationship with the outback, right?
Right.
And he takes all of that and kind of weaves it into this fantastical setting that like is so strange, but also somehow relatable.
And stuck right in the middle of all of this is our favorite reluctant hero, Rincewind the Wizard.
Right.
Except not so much with the hero part.
Yeah.
He's been given this task to find the mythical wet to save the land.
Of course.
And he'd rather be anywhere else.
Yeah, you have to remember that Rincewind's specialty is running away from danger, right?
Yeah.
He's not one to face it head on.
Right.
So dropping him in like the most unforgiving corner of Discworld is basically like asking a fish to climb a tree.
Exactly.
Right.
Yeah, it's a recipe for disaster.
Yeah.
And hilarity, of course.
Absolutely.
Yeah, Pratchett does such a great job of just painting this vivid picture of Rincewind constantly just stumbling into trouble. You know, he falls into those like soup-like water holes.
Yeah.
He gets chased by creatures that would make a crocodile blush.
Right, right.
He even accidentally invents the concept of bungee jumping with his uncanny ability to plummet off cliffs.
Well, and, you know, even in all these crazy situations, he somehow survives. It's almost as if, like, some unseen force is out there making sure that he doesn't actually die, you know?
Right.
Which makes you wonder, you know, is it just dumb luck or is there something else happening there?
Yeah. And that's what I love about Pratchett, is that he throws those little mysteries in there
Absolutely.
just to make you think.
Yeah.
And speaking of mysteries, while all this is happening with Rincewind, the wizards back at Unseen University get wind of his predicament.
Right.
So I'm curious, for someone who isn't familiar with the Unseen University,
Yeah.
how would you describe these wizards and in their attempts to rescue Rincewind?
Well, imagine, if you will, the most esteemed magical institution with centuries of tradition and knowledge.
Okay.
Now, picture those wizards as a bunch of bumbling academics who would rather argue over what is the proper attire for a rescue mission than actually rescue someone.
Oh, it gets even better.
Oh, yeah.
Their rescue involves a hole in reality,
Of course.
which is about as reliable as a chocolate teapot in a heat wave.
Right.
So, you know, they end up popping up in all sorts of random places and times and create more chaos than they solve.
Yeah, that's one of the places where Pratchett's genius really shines.
Right.
Because he uses this whole time-traveling mishap to introduce us to the god of evolution,
Okay.
who's basically as overwhelmed by his job as a first-year wizard taking a pop quiz on quantum physics.
Yeah.
This is a god that's less concerned with, like, grand designs and more worried about paying his bills and dealing with the existential angst of being an atheist in charge of creation.
The absurdity.
Right.
His creations are just as bonkers as he is.
Oh, yeah.
You've got cheese nuts that taste like cheese.
Right.
Cigarette bushes that literally grow cigarettes.
That's amazing.
And then a kangaroo-like creature that can turn into a rubber ball. Like, you can't make this stuff up.
Except Pratchett did.
Well, yeah.
And he manages to tie all of this absurdity back to Rincewind, who, in his usual bumbling way, ends up inspiring some of these outlandish evolutionary developments. Like, that kangaroo, that turns into a rubber ball. Turns out that might be Rincewind's fault. Or, well, his backside's fault, after a particularly unfortunate encounter with the landscape.
So it's almost like Rincewind is less of a wizard and more of just a walking catalyst for chaos.
Maybe.
Albeit unintentional. So we've got a reluctant wizard, time-traveling wizards causing evolutionary mayhem, and a god that's more concerned with his budget than shaping life.
Right.
What could possibly tie all of this together? Well, that's where the bullroarer comes in.
The bullroarer.
And this is where things get really interesting.
Okay. It's kind of ironic, isn't it?
What's that?
That the solution to this massive drought, this huge force of nature reshaping Fourecks, comes down to a simple piece of wood.
The bullroarer.
Yeah, the bullroarer.
Yeah, this make you think. You've got this, like, complex magic, time-traveling wizards, a god wrestling with the concept of existence, and the answer's just like this ancient instrument that looks like something a kid made in shop class.
Right. And then there's Rincewind and how he reacts to the whole thing. He's totally skeptical. Like, he's convinced it's a useless piece of wood.
Yeah.
Like, maybe a placebo at best. Or, even worse, just something that will make him look stupid.
Of course, fate has other plans.
Always.
Oh, yeah. You can practically hear him complaining as he's forced to use it. He's expecting nothing to happen, maybe a slight breeze.
Right.
But then Pratchett unleashes this downpour. I mean, a deluge that transforms the whole landscape.
It's not just rain, though, is it? It's like a rebirth, like washing away the old and bringing in a wave of new life across Fourecks. And Pratchett's description, it's just masterful.
Oh, he nails that feeling of relief. Like you can almost smell the wet earth, feel that coolness on your skin after months of burning heat.
Right.
It's like the whole continent's taking a deep breath.
Yeah, and in the middle of it all, you've got Rincewind totally confused, trying to figure out what happened.
Right.
He went from, like, almost dying of thirst to soaking wet in a second, and he still doesn't think he did anything.
Classic Rincewind. He stumbles onto the solution, saves the day, and then wants to disappear to the nearest pub. You know, get a pint and forget the whole thing happened.
But something's different this time, don't you think? He's not just running away, he's leaving behind something real.
What do you mean?
This new Fourecks, this place teeming with life, he had a hand in that. It makes you wonder if maybe, deep down, even Rincewind realizes what he did.
It's kind of poetic when you think about it. This journey full of mishaps and accidental inventions leading to this huge act of creation. Like a wave of life washing over the land. Makes you think about how unpredictable inspiration is, how it comes from the strangest places.
And don't forget the other characters in this whole cosmic play. The wizards, seeing that the wet is back, they decide to head back to Unseen University.
But, well, it wouldn't be Discworld without a twist, right?
Oh, I knew there had to be a twist. What happens? What did they do?
Well, you remember Ponder Stibbins, right? That young wizard who's always trying to figure out how everything works.
Yeah.
He's completely fascinated by the god of evolution. Decides to stay in Fourecks.
Wow. He's like that one kid in class who's always asking why and how. He sees this chance to learn the secrets of creation, watch evolution happening right in front of him. Can you imagine the questions he must be asking that poor god?
I bet the god is equal parts intrigued and terrified by Ponder's curiosity. But think about the conversations they must be having. It's like, science meeting. Well, not so divine intervention.
So while Ponder's diving headfirst into these big mysteries about life, what's Rincewind doing?
Oh, Rincewind's doing what he does best. Running away. He hitched a ride on the first ship leaving. Wants to get as far from the bullroarer as possible.
It's kind of bittersweet, though, isn't it?
Fear.
He saves this land, a land that's now thriving because of him, but he still wants to leave.
He's looking for that one place where he can fit in, be normal, avoid trouble. But who knows if he'll ever find it.
It makes you think, is Rincewind just going to bounce from one adventure to the next forever, shaping the world in ways he never intended?
I guess we'll have to wait and see.
It really makes you wonder, where does a guy like Rincewind go to find some peace and quiet in a place like Discworld?
Well, speaking of peace and quiet, we can't forget about the Unseen University's most unusual resident.
Oh, right.
The librarian.
Yeah, the librarian, right. Remind me, for our listener who maybe hasn't met him before, who or what is the librarian?
Well, the librarian is an orangutan.
An orangutan.
Yeah, and not just any orangutan. He's like a powerful wizard
Okay.
with this crazy understanding of L-space. You know, that magical dimension where all the books are connected.
Right, right. Like he's the ultimate search engine.
Yeah.
But instead of algorithms, he's got magic and a lot of simian intuition.
Exactly. And even though he can't, like, talk in human languages,
Right.
he's really expressive.
Yeah.
You know, he uses gestures and makes these grunting sounds. And let's not forget those knowing looks.
Oh, yeah, those looks. Like he's looking right through you and knows all your secrets, all those embarrassing books you checked out.
But the librarian, he represents something deeper, too, don't you think? Like a different kind of intelligence.
Right.
One that doesn't have to follow human logic or limits.
Yeah, that's a good point. It's like Pratchett saying that intelligence comes in a lot of forms.
Right.
And sometimes the things that make the most sense come from the most unexpected places.
Exactly. And speaking of unexpected, how about the god of evolution's creations? Like a kangaroo that turns into a rubber ball, a bush that grows cigarettes. What was he thinking?
I know, right? He's new to the whole God thing, I get it, but come on. Some of that stuff just seems ridiculous.
Well, he did say he's not always in control, you know? Evolution's messy, even for a god.
I guess so. It's like he's just throwing stuff out there to see what happens.
Yeah, some of it's genius, some of it's just weird, but it's all pretty entertaining.
Definitely.
And that's where Pratchett is at his best. He takes those crazy ideas and uses them to talk about uh, bigger things like chance,
Right.
and how it shapes life, and how ecosystems work, and how messing with nature can have some pretty funny consequences.
And then there's the whole ripple effect of Rincewind being there. We talked about the rubber ball kangaroo, but what about all the times he fell into those water holes?
Oh, yeah, the water
Well,
hole.
Ponder Stibbins was doing some research,
Mm-hmm.
and it turns out that Rincewind, by falling in all the time, might have actually created a new kind of fish.
The mew fish.
Yeah, a fish that can only live in those weird soupy water holes. It's kind of amazing how something so small can change so much.
It really is. And all because Rincewind can't stay on his feet.
Exactly. And speaking of Rincewind, he might spend the whole book trying to run away, but in the end, he's the one who uses the bullroarer.
Right.
He's the one who brings the rain, and he sets all these crazy events in motion without even meaning to. It changes everything in Fourecks.
It's like he's this force for change, even though he doesn't know it.
So, if we had to sum up this whole deep dive, what would you say are the big takeaways? What's Pratchett trying to tell us?
I think he's saying that we should expect the unexpected. Life is full of surprises, even in a crazy place like Discworld. Heroes don't always want to be heroes, gods make mistakes, and sometimes even a simple piece of wood can save a continent.
Yeah, he's telling us to go with the flow, find the funny side of things even when things are tough. Never underestimate the power of a good laugh, even when you're dealing with a drought, a talking orangutan, and a kangaroo that bounces.
Well said. It's been a great discussion.
Yeah, it really has. And I hope our listeners enjoyed this deep dive into the last continent.
Me too.
Until next time, may your water holes be a little less soupy and your run-ins with the god of evolution a little less chaotic.
And to all our listeners, happy reading.